up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Will Brinson, Sia Nejad, Danny Brasco, and Ken Brooks here to break down the hardball. Look, Bills Chiefs best game of the year. Delivered ratings-wise, it was fantastic. But coming into the year, but this game is everything that football is about. Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, two guys that will lie to you over and over and over in the week leading up to this game, acting like it doesn't matter. You don't think that John Harbaugh wears his Super Bowl ring to Thanksgiving and Christmas every year? I would. I would show up and just be like, hey, my brother's Charlie. I'd be like, Charlie, what's going on, buddy? How we doing? Everything good? You all right? All right, good. Good to see you, pal. How we doing?
We're back in Philadelphia, back in the childhood bedroom for the week, streaming live. Very exciting stuff. Was very humbled by the.
Have you always kept an Eagles football in your childhood bedroom?
No, okay. That's a late addition. And please hold. I have another football that's actually making it back to Fort Lauderdale with me.
Dalton Kincaid signed football?
I wish. It's Georgia football signed specifically by Eagles dogs.
That's fantastic.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That.
Yeah. So.
All right. There we go. Excited for you. Man, what a tough life. Young Eagles and Georgia fan. What a like you never even had to deal with the Mark Richt stuff, really.
I've watched
honored into titles.
I saw Georgia lose once.
Like a game?
Yeah,
or like a title?
In Athens.
That's incredible. The amount of pain I've been through in my life as an NC State fan is unbearably. And Danny's a Yankees fan. We're not going to give him any credit. Sia is a Commanders fan.
What a time to be alive.
Hey, I'm also a Knicks fan too. So there's misery with glory.
Yeah. Feel bad. And aren't you a Giants fan too?
Yeah, but I did storm 2nd Avenue in 2008 and in 2011 and jumped on top of a fire truck and was filmed by New York One with all my friends. And it's the best moment of my life. I'll never forget.
Nice. That's fantastic. Braves have won I was a Duke fan growing up, so I had a couple titles, and then the Braves came back and won a few years ago, which is that's all I got. NC State or nothing. Anywho. Ravens-Chargers. Ravens -3 at the Chargers, a total of 51, the highest actually total on the slate for the entire week 12 slate, which is it's saying something. It's a Monday night game between two teams that emphasize defense, fundamentals, and yet a lot of explosiveness on both sides of the ball. And I will lean in and go full donkey here. I will take the over at 51 or 50.5, depending on where you get it. I had 50.5 -120 earlier. It ticked up half a point. I think we talked about this, and I if you're interested in the over, I actually think, Sia, that there's a reasonable case to be made that you could hold off on betting the over until live in the first quarter if you're so inclined. Now, don't get me wrong, we bet it before if you want, but I think these two teams maybe come out a little bit slow. Ravens try to see what they can do with Derrick Henry in the run game. Now, if he pops one off like he did against the Bills for 90 or 80 yards or whatever it was, then game over on that over. But same thing with the Chargers. I think they will try to run the ball. I just don't know if they'll be able to do it. But eventually, I think we'll get into some kind of rhythm back and forth where maybe the Ravens are running the ball effectively and the Chargers are forced into passing the ball. They can do that against the secondary. And I just think we end up getting a bunch of points tonight. And so I'm taking the over in this game. Any plays for you on the total or spread?
Yeah. First of all, I think your live bet take here is really interesting. I kind of like it. I do like the idea of these two teams kind of feeling each other out, or more importantly, trying to establish the run on both sides. I think Baltimore is going to have a lot more success with that with Derrick Henry rather than the Chargers with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. But
J.K. Dobbins' revenge game. Worth noting.
Yeah, can we be real about J.K. Dobbins? His success rate's pretty bad. Since basically week 2, I understand he had a big carry at the end of last game, but basically he was a complete non-factor. I actually lean to his under. We can get to that later of 47.5. But yeah, I do think it's possible with a punt or two or a long drive that in the middle of the first quarter, you could get like a live line of 47.5 or 48.5, which is, a big difference off the 51. So definitely something to consider if you're worried about this total. But I don't really have a play on the total. I would lean to the over. And at the beginning of the week, I was pretty big on the Chargers +3. I've started to change my mind. Anytime I personally do that, where I come around to the other team, that usually means it's a stay away for me. So I have no official play.
See, last night.
Well, that's such a good example because I was on one team and then later on in the week I was on the other. It wasn't an official play, but that was something I talked about on yesterday's show. And my initial play was actually the right one. Unfortunately, I should have gone with that. So so that's kind of where I'm headed with this one. I like the prop market a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Danny, will you be diving into you gonna play the old hits? You got something else here?
Absolutely not. Shout out to my guy Jeff Stenberg in the chat who's been begging me to get off unders. I want no part of this one. I kind of agree with Sia. I also like your logic of maybe the brothers try to establish the run, get some fundamental football going, and then it's going to open up. And maybe you jump on an over. Maybe if it gets to 47.5, something like that, that'd be awesome to get through some of those key numbers. But I want no part of it.
Sorry, on the live thing too, Kylie Reynolds in the chat points out, if LA scores first, like you get a scripted drive from the Chargers early on, I think you see Baltimore maybe open it up a little more quickly. So that would definitely be a look for the over in that spot.
Right. And ultimately I agree with Sia. I think it's going to be a barn burner. I think we get a shootout here. We have a Ravens defense that has really struggled with defending the pass. They're 32nd in opposing passing yards allowed per team. So, that's not very good right there. Of course, they've got the talent to shape up, but against Herbert, he's been playing better and better. The receivers are getting healthier. So I do think that the Chargers are going to put up a good fight here. But ultimately, I'm going Ravens -2.5. I think the Ravens flock tonight. You don't make Lamar Jackson a favorite of less than a field goal or an underdog, because when he's 25-6 against the spread. The guy's ridiculous. If you watched Early Edge this morning with Sia and Mike McClure, Mike calls him the Monday Night King, or the King of Mr. Monday Night. He's got a nickname for him. That's because he's 19-5 in primetime games in the regular season. He certainly faltered in the postseason, but regular season primetime Lamar is a different beast. And it's funny because last week they had a really disappointing performance against the Steelers, who are sort of just their kryptonite. They somehow get the Ravens every year in that AFC North shenanigans with Mike Tomlin's voodoo magic. But after the Ravens play the Steelers in franchise history, of course, it goes back to trend dates that Sia does not like, but they're 25-7 franchise history the game after playing the Steelers. So there's something to be said about getting the bad juju off. You faced, Lex Luthor and your kryptonite, and you're ready to go back to being super Lamar. And I really think that's what he's going to do tonight. The Ravens have a good matchup, I think, against the zone-heavy Chargers defense that has played very well. But we did this against the Bengals last week, and although we didn't get the win, I do feel like we were on the right side. Evan McPherson couldn't make a field goal to save his life. So let's review for posterity. As good as the Chargers defense has been, they have played the easiest opposing offenses in the NFL. Aiden O'Connell's Raiders, Bryce Young's Panthers, Justin Fields Steelers, Rashee Rice-less Chiefs, Bo Nix and the Broncos. The Cardinals got him in that primetime game where I backed the Chargers against Proppy in a showdown. Of course, that's the one week that the Chargers want to return to being the snake bit franchise they've been for so long and blow it in the second half. Spencer Rattler's Saints, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis. I go on. Joe Burrow really lit this defense up, and if it wasn't for a really poor defense and Evan McPherson just faltering, I think the Bengals win that game. So I see Lamar having a great comeback, bounce back performance here, and the Ravens scoring more than the Chargers can keep up.
And conversely, by the way, the Ravens, I think, are their 12th in terms of man coverage played in the NFL. And buddy, Ladd McConkey is and Quentin Johnson too, honestly, are both destroyers of man coverage. So that's where we could just see some explosive plays. And you just see these games where it's like, I mean, play the old hits or whatever, but it's like, it's sort of like a band, like kind of jamming out, where it's like both teams feed off of each other and it turns into this like wild affair that all of a sudden you have big plays and touchdowns coming. Kins, why don't you dump some water on the fire that we were building for this over by telling us that it's going under?
Well, you know what? You're kind of convincing me into like a second half over.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that has been a game script for Baltimore. One too many times this season. So I actually like that. But we do have some heavy value on the under. I think the reason being the model adjusting to the Chargers defense being improved. I hear what you're saying too, though, Danny, with it not being against that great of competition. But again, I think they're a run first team. They want to keep it on the ground. And then you got the Ravens, who I think Lamar Jackson's going to go back to his skinny Lamar on the ground running ways. So I just think you have two teams that like to run the ball a lot. And that's why you're getting an undervalue from the model. Also, not having Roquan Smith is absolutely huge in the model as well. Just having that hurt the Ravens run D tremendously against, again, a run first offense. So certainly picks up on moves like that is really why they have them covering here. This is like it's the Ravens West, right? We've talked about it all the time, revenge game too, but just close primetime game, typically what you're going to see. And this model, I'll say, is ran by probably the biggest Baltimore Ravens fan.
That is absolutely true.
So the fact that we are leaning the Chargers says a lot for us. I'll tell you that.
And shout out to Stephen O, who I remember, like, I don't know why. I guess it was like 2 years ago. I was down in Fort Lauderdale at the CBS offices, and he was like, can you imagine if we get Derrick Henry? And it was like, oh, I mean, that seems like a little ridiculous. And then lo and behold, here we are. And he's spot on. Somehow they're not first in the division. Ken's Jeff Stenberg, chat stalwart, has opposite wall. What's opposite wall of Ken's bedroom is something with Jonas Brothers poster.
Well, it's so funny you guys say that because in the same setup in my bedroom in Fort Lauderdale, like I make this background, like whatever, try to be sporty, but the rest of my life, like I am a girly girl. Like if you saw my bedroom right now, like it is not looking like what this background looks like. He is not posters, but definitely a lot more girly than you guys would anticipate.
I actually, I guess I'm relieved that we had an Eagles fan in the chat. I mean, you're here, Ken. So, but like you weren't on the show last night. So you didn't hear. We were like bashing the Eagles. We were just like, I don't know, hey, the Eagles ain't played nobody. And then they took it to the Rams. I thought we'd get some Eagles fans showing up in the chat, and or the guy who said that I take 1.5 showers per week max. I even showered and like got ready for the show just to shove it in his face and hit that over, lock that thing in. All right. I don't think we have any questions. The entire site picked the Chargers. That's always. Does he mean like all of our
experts?
I don't think that's the case. I think there is a featured pick from one of the analysts, of course, who's picking the Chargers. But I saw M2. I saw a number of people on the Ravens along with myself. So
there's a ton of Ravens props too. Almost all of these are. Oh yeah, this whole site's Baltimore.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if that's
that may mean like ESPN's pregame thing for all we know. Worth noting, I'm looking at it right now. I actually Gipper Picks, who's in the chat, just tossed a parlay, a first quarter parlay into the SportsLine Discord.
Nice.
You can go to discord.gg/SportsLine, or thank you, Josh. You can also go to sportsline.com/join, use promo code winners, get 60% off your first year for an annual subscription, which is a ridiculous sale. Even like that's going on all the time out, like independent of Black Friday and Thanksgiving. And there's a link in there you can click if you're already a member to join. RJ White is in there. I don't know if you guys heard the Discord noise go off on my computer, but just gave out multiple picks for this Sunday. RJ, sharp as they come, and gives out, he jumps on the lines early, has his own power ratings, and does a great job with those. All righty, let's. Oh, by the way, if you're watching on X, shout out to X users. Join the chat on YouTube, youtube.com/@SportsLine. You could jump in there and chat and make fun of us, or most of the time make fun of me.
I wanted to address something in the chat, if I may. I see a lot of people saying everyone's on the Ravens, right? We just reviewed that a lot of the SportsLine analysts like the Ravens, and the public betting handle is also heavy on it. The public wins too. And oftentimes, I was halfway writing Eagles -2.5 in my picks on the document last night. And then I got to the show and we're all thinking, you know what? It feels sketchy. It feels like maybe the sharp play is the Rams. Why aren't the Eagles -3.5? Why? And all of a sudden the public cashes. The Lions destroy everyone every week. 90% of the handle is on them. So of course, in prime time, it does feel sketchy. Normally I want to play the house too. And I like being the contrarian. That's why I love my unders. But I just like the Ravens as under a field goal favorite here for the trends that I gave you. So I'm not afraid by a lot of people also joining the Ravens party. And also, I wanted to mention, it takes opposing coaches some time to get used to Lamar. I know we're going to have the brotherly duo, but I saw an awesome stat. The first time a coach faces Lamar, he's 36-7 against them. Good luck to Jim Harbaugh. So if you prefer to get rid of those -2.5, Ken showed the model 25-24 projected score. If you can find a -140 money line for the Ravens, I'm totally cool with that too.
You know, and we'll get to this with the parlays, but like there's an NBA prop. I mean, long story short, NBA prop I wanted to take that got juiced up too far. So I went and parlayed it with like Justin Herbert, 225 passing yards. Like you could like if you think the Ravens won't cover but will win, go and just like dunk down some props that like, I don't know, Derrick Henry 50 rushing yards, Justin Herbert 225 passing yards. You're probably gonna get that money line to like 120 pretty quickly at bare minimum. So there are creative ways of being smart and doing it. I think this is kind of an interesting one. Overtime. I don't even know what the odds are, but I'm intrigued. I could see this one going extra innings, just more Harbaugh stuff. It's been pretty crazy. You know, the late slate was not insane, but the end of the 1 o'clock slate was absolutely wild. All right.
So his last name was Anarumo. Any relation to Lou Anarumo, defensive coordinator? I've never seen another Anarumo. That's pretty cool.
I've never seen another Anarumo too. I don't think it's spelled the same, but Ed, if you're related to Lou, let us know. Ed Anarumo.
Italiano for sure.
Yeah. Yes. Just like Baker Mayfield. How many got asked? He was getting grilled. Did you guys see that? It was ridiculous.
That was a really aggressive
line of questioning.
Well,
I think
yeah. But
like,
did you see today when he was like, "Are you Italian? Are you Italian? I want the truth." It's like he's Baker Mayfield. He planted like a flag in the middle of Ohio State Stadium. Like he doesn't care. Inactives overtime plus 950. Don't hate it. Derrick Henry touchdown in overtime. Inactives. We have Lab McConkey in. We have Roquan Smith. Sorry, Georgia. Out. I think those are the two big ones. McConkey, of course, huge in this spot. But Lab McConkey looks like my son, who's 10. It is unbelievable and also Georgia. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch him out there. I love Lab McConkey, one of my favorite players. Frankly, ever already. He's just like
super nice guy too.
Really good.
Yeah, great guy.
I hope so. Let's get to props. I'll start because I know that this was mentioned in the chat. I can bang out some of these questions. Sean Betty says Herbert over rushing, my boys and girls. I am with you, Sean. I have the Justin Herbert over 19.5 rushing yards. It's -125. Don't care. Would take it up. Last time we had the Chargers, which was Sunday night, I think, against the Bengals. I had Herbert over. I'm nothing if not steady in terms of English muffin with peanut butter on it every morning for breakfast. Jalen Hurts touchdowns every week, and didn't get one last night. But Justin Herbert is just running more. He's clearly more comfortable running. We saw this, as I pointed out last time. We saw it with Alex Smith, with Jim Harbaugh. Once they started to get he just sort of acclimates into the system. Herbert's over the plantar fasciitis, and he's just running more. And I think we will see him. We talk about the man coverage. That's going to give Herbert some looks. They give him some runs down by the goal line too, some QB power stuff. I think Herbert gets over that. And I got another chalky one with Herbert. Justin Herbert over 1.5 passing touchdowns, -130, as Sia alluded to. Don't think the Chargers will be able to run. If they get to the one, they're going to try, and they might be successful. But I think by and large, they're going to let Herbert throw a lot in this game. So I'm a big fan of Herbert overs, and we'll have a bunch of them probably captaining in DFS. Danny, what you got?
Yeah, I told you guys that I like Lamar to ball out today. I like the Ravens to flock. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson over 287 combined pass plus rush yards here. Now, Ken's already alluded to Skinny Lamar, one of my favorite nicknames there. I think he's going to beat the Chargers with his legs too, but I wanted to combine this because I do think that he's just going to explode after the Steelers really limited him. he was very inefficient in that game, just 16 of 33, and they put up just 16 points as a team, yet he still had over 250 plus pass plus rush yards. He was still very close to this number, even in a very poor performance. He's gone over this combined line in 7 of 11 games, and he's actually done it with passing yards alone in 4 games. If I think the Ravens are going to just have this offensive explosion, I don't really want to try to decide, is it going to be Likely or Andrews? Is it going to be Zay or Bateman? I haven't been able to call it in terms of the skill position players. I just think it will be Lamar really controlling this game and stuffing up the stat sheet. So I like him to do it with his legs and with his arm, and I think he has a big day. Give me the combo, the over on the combo pass plus rush.
Oh, Sia, you also have a Justin Herbert pass, so that makes me feel great. There's nothing better than when I look at the board and I put my props in, and it's like Sia or RJ. No, I mean, no, obviously anybody, but like specifically Sia, like, or RJ show up. They're like, I have the same thing. I'm like, yes, I'm not an idiot.
You know what's crazy, Will, is I was in the Discord. I dropped in there. I haven't been in there a lot, as much as I want to, but I'm starting to get better with that. I dropped into the Discord like 2 hours ago, and there was somebody, I don't know if he's watching right now, Eric David said something to the effect of, he's got a parlay, and the last leg of his parlay is Justin Herbert over 19.5 rushing yards. And I didn't know you had this pick, but I literally said in the Discord, you can go back and read it. Anybody can. If you're a SportsLine member, that is. And I said, I love that play. I'm debating making it an official play. And then I go into the doc. I see we both have the touchdown play, but you also have the rushing yards play. So I'll lay off that as an official play, but I highly endorse your rushing prop. I love the over 1.5 touchdowns. And for the record, this is such a good endorsement of being a SportsLine member. I put this bet in early this morning, and then I gave it out on the early edge at minus 102. You can't get this thing for, at least as far as I can tell.
Yeah, minus 120. Minus 120 is the best I see. Yeah.
Well, I don't even know that minus 120 exists anymore. If it does, I don't know where it is, because like DraftKings has it minus 150. Maybe BetMGM does. Does BetMGM still have minus 120? It's possible. But this thing was minus 160 at some places as of a couple of hours ago. So again, when we put our bets in, you have access to them, and you can put the bet in at a decent number. So this is just something to consider there. But I think, listen, as much as the Chargers may want to run the ball, I just don't think they're going to be successful, whether Roquan Smith plays or not. J.K. Dobbins has not been efficient. Gus Edwards has not been efficient. Sometimes you see Hassan Haskins trotting out there. They're going to have to pass the ball. And when they get near the red zone or even far from the red zone, it's going to be a passing fest from Justin Herbert if they want to score points. I expect them to score 3 touchdowns, maybe minimum here, but certainly at least 3. Even if it's only 2, I expect them to be through the air. So I really like Justin Herbert over 1.5 touchdown pass.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, again, I realize we're talking cents depending on what you're betting here, but it matters. Like, you want to get the best possible value. Sia put it in this morning on sportsline.com, sportsline.com/join. Use promo code winner, 60% off for the year at minus 102. When I was building my parlay and I sent to Josh, I had it at minus 120. It is now minus 145 at BetMGM. You're right. That's the best that there is.
That's the best number right now, for sure.
Right. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah. I will say, for those looking at Justin Herbert over rushing yards, I did think about making it a play. We don't exactly have a ton of model value on it, but we talked about the Ravens defense kind of switching things up, and they're taking Kyle Hamilton back to like a traditional safety spot. He won't be at the line of scrimmage, and he has been a big problem for running quarterbacks, and him not being there and Roquan Smith not being there. Like, this could be a good Justin Herbert rushing game. I do support those picks for those people talking about it in the chat.
Yeah, real quick, in addition to that, because, Will, they do play, the Chargers do play the Ravens do play some zone too. But what I love about this is you're getting a team, in my opinion, that's not going to be able to run the ball super well. So what does that mean? It means more dropbacks if you want to keep pace with Lamar and company. And for the record, we haven't seen a full healthy Justin Herbert for an entire season. It looks like we've seen that the last 4 weeks, and 3 of the last 4 games have been at home. He has absolutely crushed this rushing yards prop, and those were in blowouts and close games. The one where he didn't crush it was on the road, so maybe it's a home road split thing, but I think it's more a Justin Herbert healthy thing. And when you got to keep pace with these guys and you're dropping back more than normal, which I expect, that's just, you're going to be more prone to get flushed out of the pocket with this Ravens front 4, front 7, and have to run the ball.
I also think too, and just to point it out, so Justin Herbert, before that win against New Orleans in 4 weeks ago, his high for a game was 18 rushing yards. And remember, the books are smart. They know what they're doing, but there is part of this like mathematical average of his rushing yards per game. It's not that it's like they incorporate some rolling stuff into it, but like 49-2, as Sia points out, at Cleveland, 32 and 65 rushing yards. And let's not sleep on the fact that this is Jim Harbaugh trying to beat his brother. He's never beaten his brother. He's never beat his brother in an NFL game. That would drive me effing nuts if I was like a professional coach. He's going to pull out the kitchen sink. This game is huge for the AFC playoff picture. Like, he is going, if he can get Justin Herbert rushing, he's going to tell Greg Roman to use some like read option stuff. They're going to run him in this game. And I really think if you look at the timeline for the plantar fasciitis stuff, they eased him in. I mean, he barely ran at all for the first 8 weeks of the season, and he's been running like crazy. He's a really, really good runner, and I think we see more of it tonight. It's one of those things the books will catch up on eventually, but 19.5 is way, way too low. Kens, what does the model like from a prop perspective?
We have an absolute sicko mode, disgusting prop today, and that is Derrick Henry over 3.5 receiving yards. Now, this is a play on value because essentially, to me, this is one reception, and his reception line over half a reception was like minus 225. So if I can get minus 115 for virtually the same play, I'm definitely going to take it. And we get a nice little buy low spot because he went under this in his last 2 games. But there is a direct correlation to the Ravens playing well, the Ravens offense playing well and putting up numbers, and Derrick Henry having a ton of receiving yards and receptions and being part of the entire passing game. Now, what they've done the past few weeks is become predictable. When Derrick Henry's on the field, they're going to run the ball. When he's off the field, they're not going to run the ball. I think this is when we see them just spice it up a little bit. They keep him on the field. Nobody's ready for it. And we get 1 or 2 receptions, maybe even a receiving touchdown for all I know. I know somebody mentioned that in the chat. Don't hate that if it's a pretty good price. But again, this is just around that time. They get into this rhythm. They get a little too predictable. And then bam, they hit you with Derrick Henry receiving yards. And then Lamar Jackson, I know a ton of people on the site are on this as well. This line's been steaming up. It was at 43.5 earlier today. Now it's at 46.5. We haven't projected for almost 50. And again, similar situation where like he's been so successful passing the ball that it's like, well, why would I, take layups when I'm 70% from the 3-point line? You know what I mean? So I think he does get back to skinny Lamar vibes in this game specifically, because in a gotta have it primetime situation, that's typically when we see him use his legs, got that extra day of rest, which is probably why he only had 33 against Cincy in that primetime game. So I think there's been some excuses for why he's gone under the past few weeks, but this is just the type of game for him to go over.
I don't disagree at all. I'm always about a Lamar rushing prop. The only thing I noticed, I think I saw it was maybe John Ewing on Twitter said that like the most bet prop is Lamar over.
Yeah, our site's heavy on it. We got a few people.
It's just a little like.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And typically, like that's not my style. Like I'm usually coming in.
No, I'm not knocking it. I mean, you wouldn't catch me taking the under. I'm just saying it's like anytime everyone's like, here's a free square and. Believe me, Lamar rushing will be in my parlay.
Yeah.
We have
as a guy that likes to do sharp stuff in prime time and fade the public all the time, I can't tell you how much super public stuff has been just cashing easily in prime time games as someone who's been on the other side often, right? Like the guy last night who's like, hey, should I take Saquon Barkley over 96.5 rushing yards? We're like, those lines.
He said he asked under. He asked under.
No, he asked over. He asked over.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. And I said, oh, those lines are just too high to play, man. I got to stay away. And there you go, 255. I'm so sorry, sir. But to Kenz's point, despite the public being heavy on that prop, I think it's a great matchup for Lamar. The zone coverage heavy for the Chargers will allow him to take off. They also are bottom 10 in pressure rate. So if he wants to just dance around there and take 30 seconds to figure out whatever insane play he wants to make, you're going to see that time and time again tonight. And against cover 4, which they run super heavily, Lamar's a 116 passer rating. So the guy does well against zone.
And look, I mean, we talk about Jim Harbaugh wants to win against John. You don't think John would like to put up his feet on the Thanksgiving table and go, who's got it better than us? And just toss one in Jim's face. Okay, we have a ton of questions in the chat. Let's rip through them. Henry, longest rush yard. I don't know the number.
It was like 14.5 at one point. I think it's 16.5 now. To me, those are like a very large difference between 14.5 and 16.5 that I don't think I'm willing to bite.
Good job, Josh.
16.
Yeah, it's 16.5 bit much. I mean, look, he can get there on the first carry.
If this was Saquon Barkley, maybe.
Yeah, you need a jailbreak.
I will say, with Saquon Barkley playing really well last night, I could see him getting some heavy action trying to go keep pace there.
Saquon's minus 320 offensive player of the year now. By the way, don't Oh, I know. I randomly award very quick award tangent here. Don't bet on Saquon to win MVP at plus 650. If you do, you're throwing away your money. My buddy Nick Costos, you guys know, has a heavy Saquon future for MVP at 150 to 1, which like good for you. You got great CLV. He's not winning. He's not winning the award. If the quarterbacks win the MVP, he's not winning. And I wrote about it for CBSSports.com. But if you want a good future, Chop Robinson, defensive rookie of the year, 20. It was 25 to 1. I think I got it bet down to 22 to 1. I saw it on FanDuel. He has the highest pressure rate in the entire pass rush win rate in the entire NFL over the last 2 weeks. Dolphins are coming on strong, have some high profile games. Think he could steal that from Jared Verse. So 22 to 1. Good look for him.
Speaking
Baltimore,
of Verse absolutely pancaked a guy last night. Did you see Jordan
Mailata, who's like
he blew him up
6'7" to like 380 pounds. Yeah,
incredible.
Baltimore field goal. These field goal questions. Please tag Sia in all future field goal questions. Baltimore field goal over 1.5. LA field goal over 1.5. It's a good kicking environment. We think there'll be lots of scoring, but I do think these guys will. I don't know what to do. Field goal.
All of a sudden, we can't trust Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I know.
What world are we living in?
Yeah. Remember when it was like the year of the kickers, like in the beginning of the season, and now we're like, what happened?
Yeah. But let's not mention extra points. We'll move along. Lamar over rush yards. We say we like that on the model. What do y'all think about Lamar over 29.5 passing attempts?
I just think he uses his legs tonight and goes back to his ways in a high pressure situation with a lot at stake here.
I think they could uncork some like a heavy dose of read option too on Greg Roman, which would be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought. Over 50.5. Herbert 250 pass yards. Ravens money line. Lamar 40 plus rushing. I mean, sure.
I'm mad at it.
I don't know what the number is.
David, it doesn't help if you don't give us what this is paying, because obviously this is an SGP, so we can't really consider it. Those are fun numbers, but we got to know what it's paying.
I like all four legs, but if it's like 2 to 1, I'm not really interested. If it's like 5 to 1, sure.
I mean, it's probably closer to 5 to 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Palmer and Likely 50 plus receiving yards each, and Justice Hill 25 receiving yards, 20 to 1.
Justice Hill. Interesting. I'll talk about Justice Hill a little later, but he's tough to predict, man. They just throw him in so randomly.
I think the Joshua Palmer part is a fun look from a ladder perspective. I like Isaiah Likely. It's just so hard to determine. I mean, this is 20 to 1, so I kind of get it, but it's so hard to determine his touches versus Mark Andrews versus the rest of the receiver core. So I think that's a really tough ask. But I mean, at 20 to 1, if you wanted to sprinkle a few bucks, I mean, I guess I don't hate it. Not a bet I'd make.
Sia's an 80 to 1 man. We'll I like Ladd under 65.5 receiving yards. I'm not in the business of fading Ladd McConkey, but I like Ladd's receptions over. You could talk me. The issue is you could see a situation like against the Bengals where it's late. You have a vulnerable secondary. Ladd McConkey's his go-to guy on must get spots, and he cruises over the 65.5 late.
I wonder if his lean to the under is like sort of speculation of how healthy his shoulder is.
I'm guessing that's what it is.
Right. If he falls hard on a tackle and it lands there, maybe he misses some game time. So that would be the reason I might lean to the under. But again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know his true health status. So it's just speculation. Really.
This is a pretty large number, even if he were healthy. I mean, I understand this is the Ravens defense, but it's not like he's the only target. He's the most common target, but you add in the injury, I'd be looking at Ladd unders personally.
Yeah.
I can see the pass. I can see the Ravens secondary starting to look better when you have Kyle Hamilton back again. Like I think, and like you guys said, like McConkey's one bad fall away from not being in this game potentially.
What about a this is insane. What about a Quentin Johnson over yards under receptions plus Ladd McConkey over receptions under yards parlay? Double inverse correlation parlay.
No.
No. You're gonna you're gonna create a black hole. Yeah.
How about Baltimore team? Just take the over. You're 51. Right? I mean,
everyone in the chat is demanding answers about Will Dissly. Does anyone have a Will Dissly opinions?
I will say they're really bad against tight ends as of.
And they just lost Roquan Smith, and the guy Roquan hadn't been great, but the guy who replaces Roquan Smith isn't going to be better.
We have him projected for 33 yards on 3.5 receptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's good for around 4 receptions. I think the number's probably a little high. Like, I don't think you're getting an edge by betting Disley over 42.5 or 43.5. I think it was even 44.5 like a couple of hours ago. So, I mean,
when Rokon got ruled out, it went from 39.5 to 45.5 or 44.5, I think.
And then it settled back down, it looks like, to some degree. But I just don't think there's a ton of value there, personally. Again, there's a lot of targets he can throw to.
Yeah. And Disley is not exactly a spry gentleman who's going to, I mean, the touchdown catch was great against the Bengals, but like, I think it's a if he, like for DFS purposes, he needs to score to really produce something decent. And Jeff Stenberg is cashing in his Gam savings bond. Always a joy. Jackson over 40 rushing, Herbert over 25, almost 3 to 2 point, like over 2.5 to 1. Don't mind that.
Yeah.
We already did that one. Sorry. Gibbers Picks actually put this in the SportsLine Discord, which you can check out. I mentioned it before. Herbert over 1.5 rushing yards, Palmer over 0.5 a receiving yard, and Flowers 5+ receiving yards in the first quarter, 4.5 to 1.
I mean, it's so speculative on Josh Palmer in the first quarter and Herbert to have that rush. I don't hate it at 4.5 to 1, but again, Gibbers Picks is really sharp. It's just, that's super speculative. It's fun. It's just speculative.
Yeah, you need one catch from each guy and Justin Herbert to run for positive yardage.
Don't we have a parlay from Sia, his own?
Yes.
Am I making that up? Okay.
Oh no, we do. Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, it's 2 parlays. McConkey 40+ receiving yards, Lamar 25 rush yards, Herbert 200 pass, and Disley. See, like everything's so low except that Disley number for even money. Like I think Disley gets to 25 receiving yards, but like I would rather crank Lamar up to 40. And you know what I mean?
I think that's like the alt lines here are comfortable. I just don't like the fact they're getting -110 for all 4 things to hit. I know what you're doing here, and I think this is a good way to attack alt lines, but I just still feel like this should be like +130 or something closer to that than a -110.
And again, you could bump Lamar up to 40, bump McConkey up to 50, Herbert to 225, and you're getting those are still, these should all hit. So, I mean, I don't mind it, but yeah.
Still 50 is a lot for McConkey. Again, I know his line's 66.5, but like when you're doing the alt lines, you're doing it so that you're trying to climb over a very comfortable margin.
Yes.
50, all of a sudden you're getting close, at least close enough to the actual line to hesitate.
He's got 43 in the fourth quarter and you're panicking.
Right.
Dobbins and Edwards, anytime touchdown and over 41, 7-1. No, thank you.
No chance.
It's inverse. Yeah.
By the way, Hassan Haskins gets red zone carries too. Like for the last 3 games, he's gotten at least 1 carry like inside the 5. So it's not even guaranteed that Gus or JK will be in those situations. I mean, they probably will be, but it's not definite.
Like the optimizers are trying to jam in Jalen Reagor. Give me Hassan Haskins for the same price all day long. I mean, you've been feeding him in the red zone. Lamar over longest completion, 37.5.
Cashed it last week. I'm not mad at it. He's done it a lot. You see the play style, right? He's going to create so much time and space, and someone's going to be down there eventually. So, yeah, if you're going to take a prop like that, I like guys like Lamar, Jalen Hurts, guys that can, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, guys that can extend the play.
CLE fan who was in the stands, boots on the ground. Shout out to the Browns for winning. Lamar 3 passing touchdowns plus 320.
Let's go.
Okay. We answered Lamar rush ladder.
How high can he climb, Kens? Because the model only had him at 49, but do you think he can explode over the number, perhaps?
I don't know. I don't know if I could see more than 60. I think
you got to keep in mind this is a good matchup for Lamar's arm. Like this is like the perfect coverage for Lamar to exploit rather than what he saw against the Steelers and what he normally sees against the Steelers. So I'm not saying he's not going to run, but he's not going to be super incentivized not to use his arm relative to other games. So that's why I'd be really careful with Lamar rushing ladders.
We are running behind. I just realized for the 15th week in a row. Mark Andrews, anytime touchdown plus 260. I don't mind that. I like Mark Andrews.
And
Henry, we did that one.
Says Zay Flowers ladder looks tempting. I agree with that for the record.
Lamar, anytime touchdown plus 220.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Really?
I think you break one out from far away. I think he's going to have a huge game tonight. I'm all over Lamar. And to see his point, I like him using his arm as much as his legs. That's why I took the rush plus the pass yards.
Mm-hmm.
Palmer under 2.5 receptions, over 60 plus yards, 45 to 1. You're speaking my language, Caleb. Sia, this is your...
I mean, those are fun. Like Palmer's a good candidate for this, for sure.
Yep. I would rather do that than Palmer 40 plus at plus 120 personally.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Dicker over 2.5 extra points plus 124. Knock yourself out. Go for it. Like, yeah, why not?
He can score 3 touchdowns. Yeah, it's a weird bet, but I'm not mad at it.
All right. Look, I'm sorry. We had like literally 50 star chat questions. We can't get to them all. I tried to hit as many as we could that weren't repetitive. Kens, give us the anytime model touchdown scorers.
All right, let's get through this. I'll go as quick as I can here.
You're fine.
We're going to start with Deontay Johnson. I mean, he hasn't really done anything in the 2 games as a Raven, but I feel like with 3 weeks of practice to build in the chemistry, like we're getting there. It's basically a decent preseason training camp-esque at this point. They can talk about the Chargers defense or their defensive staff being pretty familiar with Baltimore, but not necessarily him, I would say here. And I just think this is probably the most relevant wide receiver 3 for Baltimore in some time. And I think he will find himself open a good amount, like wide open and just not accounted for a few times. So I think at the price you're getting a plus 550 for just being, the sleeper, it's a good bet. And I know we're sitting here, it's just Derrick Henry. I understand minus 350 is an absolutely insane price for an anytime touchdown, but he's literally done it every game as a Raven.
They have bets out there. Will he score in every game this season? At like 6 to 1.
Yeah. So this is definitely steamed. It was a little cheaper than minus 350 earlier in the day. But again, like add it to a parlay, something like that. I mean, it's just an auto lock every single week. And then Quentin Johnson, I know somebody talked about in the chat as well. We would actually, have you paying for this minus 140 if we were here making the line. I think he's still been unfairly labeled as the bust he was last season, but he's obviously recovered from that. And he's been a scoring machine, 6 touchdowns in 7 games. And I feel like 6 touchdowns in 7 games is really all you got to say there. To be plus 190 for something you've done in 6 or 7 games, I'd take that any day.
Wow.
And we're noting you can find Derrick Henry minus 190. I saw that earlier. So that's,
huge.
Minus 350 makes that pretty good value. Great parlay piece, obviously, which leads us to our parlays in which, spoiler, I've got Derrick Henry anytime touchdown in mine. Now, look, I have 2 parlays up here. One is 14 to 1 and one is just under 5 to 1. The difference in these is the Will Dissly touchdown. Do with that what you will. So same parlay, one has it, one doesn't. Derrick Henry anytime touchdown score, Will Dissly anytime touchdown score, Justin Herbert 250 passing yards, Henry 75 rushing yards, Zay Flower 4.5 receptions, over 4.5 receptions, and Lamar Jackson 25 rush yards. If Dissly scores, that mofo's getting home at 14 to 1. So we stay hot with our parlays, and then obviously the one to the left. Josh doing yeoman's work here. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff behind the scenes. Also has multiple graphics for Sia parlays. Unbeknownst to Sia.
So this is just the safe one, right? Because if you're on my Twitter feed, you saw the 80 to 1 shot, which honestly I don't think is terrible as far as 80 to 1 shots go, but a lot has to come true there. Here, we need a high scoring game. Outside of that, I think we're a little cozy here at plus 33, boosted at BetMGM. This is plus 416. Ravens total points over 22.5. Chargers total points over 20.5. Justin Herbert passing touchdown. This is my official play over 1.5. Spread, obviously alt spread plus 10 on the Chargers. Lamar Jackson 25 plus rushing yards. QJ 25 plus receiving yards. Will Dissly 25 plus receiving yards, and that's a wrap. So this is again, I think we get there if this is the high scoring affair that we think it is.
Give us the 80 to 1 too, Josh. Because look at this, beautiful. At Sia Nejad on Twitter. I bet this. I mean, I wasn't going to blindly. I will blindly follow you, Sia. But I looked at it. I was like, not going to lie.
The key to this one is neither running game getting established. In other words, we need Derrick Henry and what I expect J.K. Dobbins and company to be ineffective. And then it's all on the arms of the 2 quarterbacks and all on the receivers. That's how we're going to get there with this one.
I wasn't sure if at the top it was, can we interest you in an 80 to 1 parlay, or it was the 1-800 gambler number?
Well, these are all sprinkle plays. And I will say this for people who say pizza money. No. This is not pizza money. This is slice of pizza money.
Pizza money is like 30. Yeah, I ordered Robbie Domino's just like $30. Pizza money is
that's a price of a Starbucks holiday drink if it's a small one.
That's right.
I invite you all to New York City, where they're taxing us out the wazoo for tomato and cheese and bread.
Ian Lighthouse says, this hits you have to mention an early edge. I think Sia will likely mention that tomorrow morning if he hits.
That'll be mentioned.
I feel so vulnerable now that I'm on the Tuesday morning early edge shows because I'm part of the graphic, the recap graphic, and it's like so sick if I'm there with 2 green check marks, but when it's like 2 X's, I'm like, oh, who's that silly little girl they have on it?
I mean, whenever I'm like out doing something, it occurs to me, it's like, oh yeah, they're probably showing like, here's what Brinson did last night. Being like, we've all had our first touchdown bet call back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance. With BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance, place any first touchdown score bet. If your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown of the game, when your wager is normal. If your player scores the second touchdown of the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. Do you guys hear me reading that read in your sleep? Because I do. Like I'm like, please. Like I don't even really need to.
I talk to my therapist about it every week.
Let's get to our diamond hands. 2 of us have them, 2 of us don't. Sia, back to you again, my man.
Yeah, real quick here. Sean Ritchie said he parlayed mine without the touchdown scores. I think that's a really good approach because anytime touchdown scores, as Ken's knows, can be kind of finicky. And real quick, Philly guy who just keeps repeating that we completely ignored the Eagles yesterday and everybody was on the Rams. Little trivia question for the hundreds of you that are in the chat, if not thousands, I'm not looking. How many of us had official plays on the Rams yesterday on this show?
0.
Will, you are correct. 0. We were just making the argument that we understand why the Rams were getting the respect that I thought they deserved. Not one of us was on the Rams as an official play. So Philly guy, stop being Philly guy and just relax. I need to relax because 2 weeks ago, I wanted to say Will Dissly as my first touchdown score, and I didn't. He got the first touchdown. Quentin Johnston caught the second touchdown. And here we are. We're back at it again. I almost went Will Dissly like Will Brinson, but I'm going to stick with QJ. He's getting a ton of air yards. He's getting a ton of targets. Hasn't been super efficient. This is the right defense for him to have a career game. Let's go, QJ.
Agree with it. Yeah, Philly guys showed up about the same time as laundry guys showed up. It's like I'm in a t-shirt. Like this.
He's mad because you're not in one of your straight polos.
Sia just fired me up. As a Giants fan, I need him next to me to debate Eagles fans. That was fantastic.
The rhetoric is like so overboard. It's annoying.
I know. The Eagles are a good team.
You don't need to be that guy. Stop doing it.
Eagles are a good team. Yeah, it's laundry day. I'm on Will Dissly. I think I love Quentin Johnston as well. I think we see I honestly think if the Chargers score first, the difference here between Dissly and Quentin Johnston is where do they score from? If they score from outside the red zone, Quentin Johnston is a much better bet because he's the deep threat. If they score inside the red zone, you can just see Dissly on a seam route, catching it and running right to the end zone. So I'm on Dissly, the people without the diamonds. Danny, you are on. You guys are on Ravens, which frankly makes more sense. They're favored.
This is perfect, though. I like the way we set it up. By the way, you guys were talking about, Ken was talking about Quentin Johnston's woes last season on Fantasy and Sleeper. If any of you guys have that app to play Fantasy, you can nickname your players. His name is Brick Hands. And all of a sudden, I kept him in my Dynasty League, and he's doing great. So I really do like the Johnston pick. I like the Dissly pick. Mine angle is totally contrarian. Everyone's going to play Henry anytime touchdown in their parlays, right? Minus 350, and it's probably going to hit. Plus 310 for the first touchdown score. It's some of the shortest odds I've ever seen. I'm going to go with the contrarian angle. When everyone bets that, into the end zone goes Derek. Wait, it's Justice Hill. I'll let Brinson do the L. Mike.
No, I can't do a Joe Buck. It's Justice Hill.
Yeah, I don't want to do a Joe Buck, but I'm going Justice Hill instead. Contrarian running back for the Ravens.
And Kens.
This is a sentimental play because it was this exact week last year that I did my first early edge primetime pregame, and I took Zay Flowers, and it hit. and I hit very early into the season. Never again, but he was my guy. So got to go back to him. Back in the same room, same vibe. We're ready.
I love it. Great stuff. All right, we ran long as always. I'm sorry, but fantastic show. Excellent insight. This is gonna be a fun game. Let's recap our bets. I'm on the over. Justin Herbert over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Justin Herbert over 19.5 rush yards. Danny on the Ravens and Lamar Jackson over 287 pass plus rush yards. Sia on Justin Herbert over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Gave it out on SportsLine, sportsline.com/join. Use promo code winner, 60% off your first annual subscription. Sia also, as he mentioned, likes Justin Herbert over 19.5 rush yards. And Ken's on Derrick Henry over 3.5 receptions, just sicko. And Lamar Jackson over 46.5 rush yards. Let's cash those tickets.
I forgot to mention the SportsLine model picks, and I put them under my name on the site, are 14-2 in the last 16. So I don't know if that means you should tail me or it's time to tail me now.
Stay hot. Stay hot. 14-2. My God.
Yeah.
All right.
On the backs of Derrick Henry receiving yards and other disgusting plays.
Let's have a big night. For Ken's, for Danny, for Sia, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.